Good morning, students. I am Himabindu, lecturer in English, working in Sir CRR College for Women. Today, I am going to deal with the third semester Communication Skills and Soft Skills Paper 2, Unit 3, Speaking Skills 1. In that unit, I am going to explain about presentation skills. What is presentation? A presentation is a talk giving information about a product, a subject, or an idea to an audience. A presentation is a form of oral communication. First, let us know what is meant by communication. Communication is nothing but an exchange of information. If you want the communication has to be taken place, there is a need of two or more people. One is the sender of the information and the other is the receiver of the information. If the receiver is able to understand the information conveyed by the sender in a proper way, then only we can say that the communication has taken place. Otherwise, we can say there is a communication gap or miscommunication. A presentation is a form of oral communication which can be adapted to various speaking situations such as talking to a group, addressing a meeting, or briefing a team. Generally, presentations are used by different students, teachers, scientists, researchers, managers, sales and marketing executives, administrators. They all use these skills in their everyday life. Presentation skills include thinking skills, communication skills, and body language. Because when you want to convey something to a large number of audience, you have to be very conscious that you have to maintain a good body language in front of the audience. The message should reach to the other person in a proper way, and if you want your presentation to be in a perfect manner, you have to think about the subject or idea or a product before you start your presentation. So, all these skills like thinking skills, communication skills, and body language are very, very important in our presentation. The next slide is about different kinds of presentation. The first one is computer projection. It comes under PowerPoint. Here we use our PowerPoint with the help of the computer projection. The next one is flip charts, black or white boards. Generally in a classroom, a teacher uses black or white board to explain about a particular topic. In the absence of white or black boards in earlier days, people used flip charts. The next one is video. We record a video and send it to the person whom you want to convey some information. The fourth one is real objects such as a plant or a product. For example, a botany teacher, if she wants to explain about a plant or a leaf, she comes to the class with that particular plant or leaf to show it to the students. That we call it showing a real object, so that the audience or the students may have a better picture of what they are going to learn. And a salesman is the best example. Here we generally see to our homes many of the salesmen comes with different kinds of products and they try to give a demo and show how that machine works, what are its uses, how our work gets easier. They show the real objects and they are trying to explain. That means showing the real object and presenting the real object and explaining. That we call it as a presentation. The next one is making PowerPoint presentation. We have discussed about different kinds of presentations. In that, PowerPoint is probably one of the most effectively and widely used tool today. Here, in the present scenario, the teachers and lecturers are using both PPT and video to reach to the students. A care should be taken while preparing a PPT, and in this slide we are going to discuss about what is PPT and why we use it and what care should be taken while preparing a PPT. It is like preparing your own oral presentation, showing the points on a screen in the form of PPT. Whoever presenting the topic, that person tries to show the points on the screen with the help of PPT, and orally he explains about each and every point in his own words. That we call it as a oral presentation with the help of PPT. While explaining, we use images, pictures, charts, graphs, and flow charts, etc. Slides charts should be in right order and should match the sequence point. Here, for example, you are explaining about a problem or population of a women or men in a state or a country. So, you are using a chart or graph, and that chart or graph should represent about that particular point what you are trying to explain. Visuals. Visuals should be simple and clear so that the audience will be able to understand it in a better way. Layout should be well designed. Do not use more than three colors, otherwise, it will distract the attention of the audience. That the audience may not be able to focus on the content what you are trying to tell, and their attention may be on the color of the slides. Select the right font so that the last person at the back of the room could be able to see it, and he should not strain his eyes to see the screen. Clarify the doubts. After completing your presentation, at last you can as well ask the audience if they have any doubts, and if they come out with the different kinds of doubts, you have to clarify those doubts with the best of your knowledge. At last, thank the audience after the presentation is over. Structure. All presentations, either oral or written communications, must have a beginning, a middle, and an end. The first part must consist of greetings, a brief, clear statement of the subject and the purpose of the presentation. Here, after starting your presentation, first you have to greet the audience, and after greeting, give a clear and brief statement of the subject, what you are going to explain and on what purpose you have gathered there. The second part must have the main content of the presentation. It should be in a logical way so that easy for the audience to follow it. If you are explaining about a problem, you can as well tell about the solution or discuss about advantages and disadvantages of that particular problem, and at last you have to recommend some suggestions. The last part must have a brief recap or summary of the most important points, followed by remarks to conclude and thank the audience. Here, in the last part, after completing your presentation, once again you have to recap or summarize what you have discussed in your presentation. And you can also suggest or give some remarks to conclude that. At last, thank the audience, and you can as well clarify their doubts if they have any. And you should be very well sure that your content should be interesting and easy to understand with examples. Then, the language of presentation. As it is an oral form of presentation, we should focus on our spoken language. At different stages of presentation, we have to use a language suitable to the context. In that, the first one is opening remarks. You have to start your presentation with a greeting like, "Hello everyone, good morning." If it is an informal gathering, you can as well say, "Hi, hello." If it is a formal gathering, you have to introduce yourself by saying, "Good morning." The next one is stating the purpose. On what purpose you have gathered there, you have to explain it first. To explain that, you can use phrases like, The purpose of my talk today is, or in my presentation today, I am going to tell about, in that way you can say. The next one is giving an outline. If you want to discuss a problem, you can divide your presentation into different parts. If that is the case, you can say that I will first discuss a problem, then a solution, finally some suggestions. In this way, you can tell about your outline. You can use phrases like I will first discuss, then finally, or at last, likewise. Giving other preliminary information and starting with the content. Here, you have to take care of time. Time is very, very important. Before you start your presentation, you have to say how much time you are going to take for your presentation and ask the permission to discuss the questions at the end of the presentation. The next one is moving to another point. After completing one point, we can move on to the other point. While moving, you can use phrases like let's now turn to next point or I would like to move on to. Emphasizing important points. Here, what is meant by emphasizing? Emphasizing means lay stress on or give some special importance. There are some points in our presentation we want the audience should focus on that particular point. So in that case we use the phrases like what we must understand or realize is that we really need to focus on. It is absolutely true. The next one is drawing attention to visuals. If you want the audience to look at the visuals on the screen, you can use the words like could you just look at the image on the screen or see the next slide. For making recommendation, the next one is making recommendation. Here, if you want to recommend something to the audience, you can as well say I strongly recommend or I really think or believe is that. The next one is keeping the audience involved. If you are giving a long talk or lecture, they may feel bored after some time. In order to avoid that boredom, you have to ask different questions to engage the audience so that their attention may not distract. For that, you have to ask questions like how would you solve this problem? What are your opinions? Likewise, you can ask some questions. The next one is summarizing and concluding. To sum up the main points, before I end my talk, I would like to summarize to conclude. These are the phrases for summarizing you use. And conclusion. After giving conclusion, thank you all for your attention. You have to thank the audience with this sentence. The last one is inviting questions. Here, after the presentation is over, sometimes the audience may have some kind of doubts regarding that particular subject or topic. If that is the case, you can invite the questions from the audience by saying, if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask them. Or if there are any questions, I will be pleased to answer them. The next slide is about guidelines for preparing a presentation. In that, the first point is decide on the subject. If the subject is not assigned or given to you, you need to select the topic basing on the occasion of the day or by depending on the audience whom you are going to meet. So you have to decide the subject by keeping these 2 points in your mind. First one is select the topic basing on the occasion of the day or basing on the audience whom you are going to meet. In that, after selecting the topic, planning is very, very important. To say frankly, it is the first step for an effective presentation. So you need to focus on the topic first. Even though the topic is the same, different persons present it in different ways. So you have to think innovatively to catch the attention of the audience. A planning is very, very important. Be original and smart. Do not try to imitate any other person. Be yourself. Then your presentation should carry your own image, your hard work, your passion, and everything should be clearly visible. Your quality should be visible in your presentation, and it will create some kind of interest among the audience to listen to your presentation. You can as well mention about your experiences or some short stories which are relevant to explain about that particular topic. Begin preparing the content of your presentation by putting down your objectives. Here, you have to be very careful about what you want to teach or what you want the other person to learn. These two things are very, very important. And do you want to just give some information? The main idea of your presentation, what it is, you want to just give some kind of information, or do you want the other person to think about that particular information, or do you want the other person to realize about what you are saying? What is the main objective of your presentation? You have to decide first, then only you can start preparing for the content of your presentation. Think of audience, their maturity level and age group. Basing on the occasion, there is a need either use formal or informal language. Even though the topic is same, for school children we present it in one way, for youngsters we present it in one way, for elders we present it in another way. This is all because of their maturity level, their understanding level. Basing on that we prepare our content. So keep in mind about the maturity level and age group of the audience. List out the main points and sub points. It is very, very important before preparing your content. You have to uh, think about the main points, what you are going to discuss, and what are the subtopics come under that particular points. If there are any sub points also, you can note down, and after noting down all the points, you have to practice it until you are confident enough to explain or to speak in front of the audience. Ensure that the presentation has a clear conclusion. Do not exceed the time. Be short and sweet. You should remember that whatever time has allotted to you, you have to complete your presentation in that allotted time. So be careful about your usage of words. Right words you have to use basing on the context, right phrases and right expressions, so that it will be very short and sweet manner. Stick on to the original plan of the presentation. You should not deviate from the topic. Use your voice according to the size of the room. Here, the size, basing on the size of the room, you have to use your voice. It should not be in a low way or in a louding way. Speak at a natural pace. It should not be neither too fast nor too slow. Use pauses now and then wherever they are necessary. Be interactive and humorous. Do not move frequently on the stage. Stay cool and relax. You should not feel nervous. You should say your presentation in a cool manner, and you should not move on the stage frequently. Be careful of non-verbal signals. You have to use appropriate facial expressions, eye contact, body language with the audience. Do not block the screen. Before you start the presentation, check the equipment. Everything you have to check, whether the computer is in the right position or if it is working condition or not. You have to check before you start your presentation. Practice it as many times as you can. There is a saying that practice makes man perfect. So you have to practice it as many times as you can. Then only you can present it in a well manner. Then recap. Here we are going to discuss about what are the topics till now we have covered in this particular presentation skills. Presentation is a form of oral communication. Follow the structure. Use appropriate language basing on the context. PPT should not be crowded with too many sentences. Subject, time, voice, speed, modulation, audience, non-verbal signals should be taken care of. All these points you have to keep in your mind before you start preparing or while preparing for a presentation. Think about the subject and complete within the time, and voice should reach the audience. It should not be in a speed way, and your modulation should be in a proper way. Think about the audience, their maturity level, their age group, and non-verbal signals like facial expressions, so eye contact, body language, everything should be taken care of. Possible questions. Write about the structure of presentation. I have already explained about the structure. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. At first part, what we have to do, second part, and third part. First part, we you have to greet the audience first and tell about on what purpose you have gathered there. And in the second part, in the middle part, you have to explain about the content of your presentation with the main points, focus on the main points, and at last you have to give a recap or summary of what you have told in your presentation, and discuss about questions what the audience have. If the audience have any doubts, you can as well discuss about that questions and give answers to the best of your knowledge, and at last thanking the audience. The second question, what kind of language should be used while making a presentation? I already told you, basing on the context, you have to use a language, and basing on the uh, formal or informal gathering, you have to keep these 2 points in mind, whether it is a formal or informal occasion or context of that particular situation. Basing on that, you have to use a language. How to develop presentation skills. We have discussed about some of the guidelines while preparing a presentation. Uh, which which are the guidelines we have to follow? First, decide the subject, original and smart, objectives, thinking about audience, main points, giving a clear conclusion, follow the time limit, sticking on to the original topic, using our voice in a proper way, natural pace, and be interactive and humorous, staying in a cool and relaxed manner while giving a presentation, using our non-verbal signals in a proper way, and checking the equipment, practicing. These are all the things you need to focus on while preparing a presentation. If you develop all these skills, you will be perfect in your presentation. These are the references I have used to explain about this particular topic. Thank you all.